Dear Neurocareers podcast listeners, in this episode, I am glad to introduce a guest who bridges the worlds of neuroscience, language, and cultural transformation, Cristina Leira, PhD. Born and raised in vibrant Buenos Aires, Argentina, Cristina has spent her life at the crossroads of diverse cultures and languages. Fluent in Spanish, English, French, Italian, and Portuguese, her career began as an educator and translator for the Argentinian Air Traffic Control Training Center, and later she brought her expertise to the U.S. Department of Defense. With a PhD in psychology, a master's in applied linguistics, and graduate studies in public translation and interpretation, Cristina's work combines the best of neuroscience, cognition, and instruction. Her research focuses on using healthy choices, neuroscience insights, and spirituality as tools for navigating life's challenges and enhancing satisfaction. Cristina is dedicated to empowering people to transform their lives. Whether as a researcher, author, speaker, or consultant, her mission is to help others bridge cultural and linguistic divides while unlocking the full potential of the human mind. Oh, welcome, Cristina. It's a great pleasure to have you today on our podcast. Thank you so much for joining. Can you briefly introduce yourself? I'm sure I missed many things, and maybe tell where you are joining us from what part of the world.
For this phenomenal introduction. And I tell you something that you didn't say, that I love painting and I love classical music. I like trance music and I like music that doesn't have words, so that then I put myself the content of what I want to do. I start my day with classical music and I end the day with classical music. So apart from that, you said pretty much everything. My accomplishments and my passions.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for adding that information. And you love to paint. You love to paint yourself, or you love art and paintings, or art in general?
I love art. And I was always prone to reading and seeing symbols everywhere. And so, go and traveling. And one thing that I always loved was the artistic expression of humanity. That you look at a picture or a painting, you don't have to say a word. We can all understand from our vantage point who that talks to us. And nobody can say you're wrong, because you can see a painting of Van Gogh and they can think one thing, you think another. You can feel one thing, the other. Doesn't matter. It's right for us. So that's what prompted me to say, well, I would love to paint my dog. I have a little Shih Tzu. She's blind. And she's 14 and she's selectively deaf, but she's extremely healthy. In fact, she runs the household. So I said once, I'm going to paint her. So I painted her. And so what I paint are things that I don't find when I go to a museum. And I read once, I love reading quotes. And I do that pretty much every day. I have the 1 page a day calendar and I get phenomenal inspiration for the day. And one thing one said is, write as if no one is going to read what you write. And then I added, well, I will paint as if no one is going to see what I paint. And I will even sing as if no one will ever hear what I sing, right? So that's why I love a painting, because it's my expression.
Yes, yeah, that's beautiful. And then you are not basing your work on possible opinions of other people, because you are not painting for anybody. You are not thinking about anybody. You are just doing it to express yourself. And it's so valuable. Yes, yes. So interesting. And also you saying that you were even growing up and you used to see symbols everywhere. So you were looking for meaning in everything that surrounds us, which our brain is very prone to do. Yes. That's why, many illusions, optical illusions are based on, yes, our brain trying to make sense of things that, may not be really connected. but it's important for us. So can you maybe provide some examples of, you seeing that meaning in the world?
So, of course, if I go to Carl Jung and everything that I founded my research on, there are so many things that have been written about the power of symbols. But I think that a lot is lost in translation when you complicate definitions. So for me, symbols, and I'm not necessarily referring only to religious symbols, but mostly the ones that talk directly to your heart and soul. And for me, symbols connect me to the ineffable, that I cannot talk about. So I am an immigrant. I came from Argentina here. And growing up as an only child, my father was a foot doctor, a podiatrician. And my mom worked with him because he had a very successful practice. So I grew up pretty much with nanas. And one thing that happened was the nanas were pretty much bored to be with me, I guess, because I was not their granddaughter. They were paid to be with me. So they lasted 2 or 3 years. And then I had a new nana. So I realized that I needed to do something to keep myself happy. And I started drawing and I started looking at comic books and I started reading. When I was probably 4 years old, I started reading and I didn't know much the words. So I started looking at the paintings and the comic strips that my mom gave me. They were very intriguing and they had a lot of symbols. So I would say that was like, okay, what could that be? So that was my beginning with it. Basically, they became my surrogate parents, right? Because my father came home at 11 p.m., my mom at 9 p.m. So I was with the nanas, yes. There were no cell phones back then, but they were still, one was knitting, the other one was, I don't know, whatever. And I was okay, great. So books and the comics, all that connected me with myself. So I found in symbols or just trying to detangle what they talk to me, they get me in company, Milena. It's interesting. Every time that I open a book that had images, I felt like in company, like as if it was talking to me. And again, it started before I knew how to read well in Spanish, my native language. So symbols or images were the ones that went directly to me. I didn't need to understand the words. I put meaning to the symbols or to the images. And growing up, then I grew up on my mother's side, Jewish, on my father's side, Catholic. None of them practiced anything. So it was completely and absolutely agnostic. I wouldn't say atheist because I know they believe in God, but nothing of practice. So I had no idea about any religion. But the best high school would be a Catholic one. I had not taken the first communion or anything. And I was 12 years old. I passed the entrance exam, but I didn't have the first communion. So my parents helped me with their friends that had a lot of friends that could help me get the catechism done fast. Well, anyways, all this is to say, I ended up going to a Catholic high school because of the education, not so much for the religious portion. But that was a whole new world. That is when I was mesmerized, like, oh my God, look at, it was a beautiful church and beautiful everything. And the iconography and the stained glasses and the music and the incense. And I was fascinated with all the things that the priest was doing on Sundays. And I loved that. And when he did the holy water, I'm like, I never caught water, but I was like, oh my God, I didn't get the water. So it was nothing for religion, but it was the symbolistic nature that talked to me at a level that nobody could talk to me, if it made any sense.
Yes, absolutely. And your fascination with everything, I think you're carrying it from the very beginning when you were a child trying to decipher things, your curiosity, and also ability, I would say resilience, because obviously you didn't feel that you have everything you need or you want, and you started looking and you found it. Yes, in books, in comics, in painting.
I grew up very lonely, very lonely. Materially speaking, I had it all, but I grew up very lonely. the times that my parents were with me, it was godsend because my father had this soothing voice. He was such a hard worker, was beautiful soul. He just worked very hard. He was so successful. People wanted to see him months ahead. And my mom, was helping him with the practice. So they were just working. But the time I had with them was high quality, but it was very short time. And one thing that I learned is when we are kids, we need time. We don't need the big toys. We don't need the big, marble floors. We don't need the big, statues there. We need time with our caretakers, whoever that is. And so in my void, I had the blessing that I could put it in with books, with images and also with learning, because my mom always made sure that I was very inquieta in Spanish, which is like, I was going everywhere all the time. I'm still am. So my mom is like, I need to tranquilize her. I need to calm her down. So she sent me to have all types of courses. Even in summer, she made me go to even get something on mathematics, something on this, something on that. So I was always studying something. But that gave me solace in a way. So learning about different things, and they were unrelated. Learning about different things filled the different parts of my soul, and which is what I carried then later as I moved here to the US, kind of in a way recreated my loneliness. And again, I went back to books. I went back to studying. And so I always go back to, my point of what keeps me together. And in my case is reading and is studying.
Yes, that's beautiful. And my next question is, how did all these experiences, your childhood experiences, shaped your career?
Well, I always say the same thing. I never planned my life. Everything that I planned went south. Like from very, very beginning. I planned to be with my parents, then they couldn't. I planned to study this, I couldn't. Then I wanted to date that guy, I couldn't. I mean, everything that I planned, I couldn't. So I'm like, whatever. So pretty much that is what happened in my life. Has been a whatever life. So every time I said, well, everything I want doesn't happen. Okay, do whatever you want. And then the next thing fell on my lap. So like that, it was like I started going to translation and interpretation graduate studies, which was first going to law school to then become the translator. That is in University of Buenos Aires. And then from there, I'm like, okay, I want to study art. My parents allowed me to go to England to study a little bit of art. And there I met friends. I'm like, okay, I'm going to the US now. And I said, Mom, I'm going to do my master's in applied linguistics. And like, okay, go there. Then when you finish, come back. Well, I never came back. I mean, I go back, of course, all the time. But I stayed there, finished my master's. And next to me was sitting this lady that had this short period working with people that I had never heard before. They were called Navy SEALs. I'm like, SEAL? Like the animal? It's like, no, SEAL, S-E-A. So I'm like, I didn't even know what that was. So I'm talking of 1997, okay? It was not like everybody knew about what this was. So I'm like, what is it? I'm like, no, I just came here to do a master's and then go back to Argentina. It's like, listen, just do this part-time and then boom. So I finished my master in applied linguistics. So I was teaching Spanish and French for them. And the rest is history. I mean, I started to love it. And the first day of class, I have here a whole platoon of, and they were probably, at that time, they were probably teen guys. And so we were all the same age, very, very young. So I come in with the book that this lady gave me, and I start teaching with the book. And they were looking at me like, you talk one more time with that darn book, and we will kill you. And you know they can. So I went to the bathroom, and I forget that. It was 6 hours a day for 3 months. It was a very, very strong course for Spanish because it was a pre-deployment course so that they knew how to survive in Spanish when they went to the Spanish-speaking countries. So I went to the bathroom, and one of the guys comes and is like, Cristina, I understand that you will not survive here. You will not make it. That little grammar book that you brought, we're not here for that. We can just read that on our own. So whatever you have to do, change. I'm like, oh, really? You don't know me. Other teachers, they have done the same. They went like, they left crying and all that. No, I was, no, I didn't come here to be evicted. Mister. Long story short, I developed a program that it was phenomenally successful throughout the years. And they took the Defense Language Institute, for example, they have the same type of exam, which is the DLPT, Defense Language Proficiency Testing. And they took that same test, and that it took 6 months in DLI to learn, and they took it with our classes that I developed in 3 months, and they were having the best scores. So that was how I started working with Naval Special Warfare, with the Navy SEALs. And then as time went on, I then started, handling the program, and then I became a GS, a government employee, and I did that for 25 years. So literally everything, I never planned that. I literally never planned that. And, this story, then I'll tell you the end. So I thought I planned to retire doing that again. I planned to retire. And again, the big intelligence there, the highest good of all, said, no, you're not going to retire from there because we're going to defund your program. So after 25 years, my program was defunded. And I didn't make myself ready to transfer because I was a GS. I could have, but I didn't think it was going to happen because every year, the government goes through this, we will not have enough funds. And then it's, after September 30th, they said, okay, we have the money. So I thought it was going to happen that. This time it didn't happen. So the program was defunded and poof, I was unplugged and my life changed forever because that was a plan that I really had and I was not ready to be unplugged.
What a story. What a story, Cristina. What was the secret? How did you change the program? What idea did you come with to make this happen, to make this work for those Navy SEALs?
Well, it is going to sound a little bit far-fetched, what I'm going to say, but I'll go for it. The secret was grammar. Again, simplify life. So I was having this, books that they were the communicative approach, which is you learn as you speak, you learn. Well, it was not working. These guys are very, focused and they need to know why. So I cannot tell them, just repeat, yo camino, tú caminas, él camina, nosotros caminamos. No, they wanted to know why you use that and this. And so I pretty much started explaining in simple words and I started creating we had Blackboard back then. And so I was writing blackboards and then I typed it and then we print it out. And it was very simple. It was grammar. So they learned the language via grammar. That's it. That was the answer. So grammar plus the vocabulary that they needed. So instead of using, going to a hotel room and asking for a hot bath, please, no, they will never use that. So instead, I was pretty much in training with them to see what is the vocabulary that they needed. So I learned how to assemble and disassemble weapons, what are the parts of the helicopter, what are the different weather conditions that they may find, the different things that they needed to survive. So it was a combination of applicable and tailor-made, customized vocabulary with grammar. Grammar, why? Because it gives you the structure, right? And then you just substitute the language, the vocabulary that you need. So it was a very completely customized just for them.
Yeah, and that's the secret. I think it's very important. First of all, you looked at their needs, how they use the information. Yes, how they process the information. They need to understand. They need to understand the meaning behind why things are this way, not simply repeat, like you said. And you provided that very clear structure to them. And secondly, yes, very customized based on what they will be using. Because, we're buying these books when going to other countries, yes, with all kinds of phrases, but you hardly use them. And it's a waste of time, waste of paper, and no results. And so you definitely did great.
Yes. And then as time passed, then I had the blessed opportunity to refine it. And then when I became the program manager, I was not teaching anymore, but then I was having, because the focus of their deployments shifted. So they were going to other areas, of course, in the world. So Spanish was not necessary, but they needed Pashto, Farsi, Dari, for Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iran. And so what I did was I had subject matter experts from those countries. Most of them were refugees, others were foreign nationals, and I trained them in the same methodology. And here came the third ingredient. So the first one we talked was grammar. The second one was customized vocabulary. But the third one is what made it completely different. And that was the respect for the culture they were going to go. Now that was the magic trick, because all of a sudden they didn't see, targets. They just saw humans that had different religions, that have different traditions, that have food. So each of us, in fact, at some point, we were like 25 people from all these countries that were having some type of unfortunate war zones. And all the subject matters were from these countries, all one next to the other. We were all eating together. And each of us brought something each week from their own country. So sometimes it was my turn to bring things from Argentina, like cuisine from Argentina. Others brought from Iran, others from Israel. I mean, whoever had to do something, they brought the food of the area. And then we play the music. So all of a sudden, they were like they were making friends with the instructors. And these are the same people that, a couple of weeks or sometimes a month or so, they would have to go to that area to work with, the allies to do their mission. But they were having this human factor before they deployed. So it was beautiful. It was magical. It was an honor. I have my male friends are mostly SEALs. And I will be honored for the rest of my life to say that I worked with them for 25 plus years. It's an honor. It's the most resilient people given, and they really are something that I said, like, what a gift that I did not plan this. And, and the universe put that on my lap.
That's amazing to have this experience and for so many years. How did you come up with this idea to add that third cultural component? Why did you think that that's important to add it, to integrate it into your program?
Melinda, it all goes back to what happens in our first few years of life, how we connect. And I realized that the way I started is I lacked connection. I wanted to connect. So I think that I never thought of this, like I'm doing now introspection, but what I think happened was I noticed that these were, 23, 24, 25-year-old kids, that they were going to go to a place that they had no idea. And all of a sudden, to taste the food, I'm like, oh my God, this is so delicious. And they were even exchanging recipes. So all of a sudden, and it started out of nowhere. I think it was because one day we were all hungry, and I'm like, oh my God, we should all bring, instead of going, to the place here and get some hamburger, because I worked on base, and so not many options for restaurants. So I said, how about let's bring some food. So we started again, not planning. There was never a plan. It was just, you see, I think the important thing is it's okay to not have a plan, but it's important to be with your antenna up so that when you get the signal, that is when you do it. Mm-hmm. I was trying to create the signal. That's why my plans never worked. Once I left my antenna up, but I didn't plan anymore, all of a sudden the magic unfolded.
Yes, absolutely. And that's an interesting approach. And sometimes I think it's important. Sometimes we're pushing too hard, trying to implement our own plan instead of just relaxing and making that plan come through you.
Yes, we all have that. It's not me, it's all of us. We all have this, I call it antenna, with this invisible antenna. And then we communicate, some with meditation, other with singing, other with painting, others working, because work is also another way of service. So we just have the antenna up. We just have to hear, to sense when the communication is very whimsical. It doesn't come like someone coming in, Cristina, now you will add culture. No, it just comes like all of a sudden, we're hungry. We don't know. I'm like, oh my God, anybody cooks here? We're like, yeah, I cook. Like, how about we start all bringing something from? And so then it became, and again, the classes were finite because it only 3 months. And then the guys left. Unfortunately, some perished. Others, well, retired and all that. So we were not always in contact with them afterwards. But most of them, they did. And most of them, even they became even friends with instructors that had taught them the language and the culture of where they were going to deploy.
That's so fascinating. Oh, I'm so glad we're having this conversation. In which situations your antenna works the best? You're saying that some people do meditation, some might do painting, some reading, some working. What is it for you when you hear it the most?
I hear it in the morning. Once my program was defunded, the 7 days later, my husband lost his job of 26 years. So in just 1 week, we were unplugged pretty much. And now we're not talking of 2-3 years, right? We're talking of a lifetime. Mine, 25 years, he, 26 years. So speaking of surreal time, right? And I remember I was doing my PhD at that time, and I had a paper due a day after he lost his job. And I'm like, what am I going to do? So I remember saying, well, when you are in such a fog moment, which we all have, I was like, okay, I cannot even pray because I was too hungry, to be honest. I was too hungry. And so I did not want to pray. I didn't want to do anything. I just was like, okay, you put me here, so write the paper for me. So it's funny, but pretty much I sat down and I started typing. And I have no idea how, but I typed the paper and ended up being a phenomenal paper that someday I will publish. But anyways, to your point, what is for me is to let go. So it happens once I had that moment, this was in 2021, I said, well, I need to reboot and fast. Otherwise, I will go downhill very fast. And we both know with our brains, our mind, there is no warranty who can go down. Anybody can go down. So we have to be always very aware of what is happening here, always. So I did, again, I felt like I needed to not be in social media, not have to do anything, just read. And I got these guys, like 1 page a day type of calendars, which I have all over my house. So anyways, so to your question, the way that I find my own solace is early in the morning. Now that I moved on from that dark age, I keep it now. So I get up in the morning, I turn my classic music on, and I walk through the house with my 1 page a day that are spared with all different types of beautiful messages. And that's the way I start, with my coffee, drinking, okay, this and this and this. Now I start very early, very, very early in the morning, and which is another beautiful thing. Start before sunrise. And then it's like you hear, the beautiful birds start starting to be out there. And so that is the way I do it.
Yes, that's beautiful. I do the same. I get up very early, and those are best moments in the day, I think, because everything is so quiet. Nobody's even awake, and you have that calmness to be in and to really feel and hear yourself. And yeah,
Yes.
it's wonderful.
Yes.
Yes. And I was impressed with your fascination with the Navy SEALs, working with them. Can you tell what fascinates you in them? What are those qualities that you're fascinated with?
Yes. Their resilience, their value system, their team mentality, their I'll do it all and I will not look back. Their honor. They are very good people. And it's funny because we're all older now. I met them all. We're all in our 20s, now we're much later in life. And the quality stays there. Physically, we all change. And it's funny because, of course, I'm sure they say the same thing about me, but many times I run into someone like, you're like such and such. And he's like, you're Cristina? I'm like, oh my God. So they may not look the same as when they were, this in their 20s, but quality inside stays the same. Their honor system stays the same. And these are the things, if I have to have my go-to approach for life is legacy, is that. Live the fact that the outside changes, work on what will never change, which is your honor system, your value system. That doesn't mean we will not make mistakes. I make mistakes every day. But every day, as the sun rises, so does the opportunity that I have to have a better day. And even if at night, I still don't feel happy with what I did, it's okay. The following day, it's like Groundhog Day. I feel like we live in a life of Groundhog Day, like the movie that is everything the same. If you think about it, every time the sun comes out and then the sun goes down and the moon up. And then, so it's Groundhog Day. We just think that we're living something different, but in fact, we're just reliving. We're every time having an opportunity to do better. And the better is not necessarily to not make mistakes, but to say, okay, I made that mistake. Okay, that one I will not make again. But I will do another one, but not that one.
Yeah, I got a new experience. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. And now I am very curious about the story. Yes, you brought us like a real writer to that peak that, yes, you are in a situation after so many years. It's 2021 and both you and your husband, you don't have income. So what did you do?
So I finished what I started. I finished my PhD.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I went back to my first love, which is what? Books. And which is what? Also symbols. And so my research was on how the use of religious symbols help us cope in times of adversity. So basically, it's a beautiful, loop. It's like I always love the story of the warrior that leaves home to go and do the journey. And then when they come back, it's a different person, even though it's the same warrior, but it's a different person. Well, in my case, it's similar. I started my life with, okay, I feel lonely. How can I fill the void? Books and symbols, images. Well, when this happened, that I felt unplugged, because that is the other thing, I equated what I did. My identity was what I did. So I was what I did. Mistake. We are who we are. We are not what we do. What we do could be taken anyway, anytime. You can be a phenomenal, a movie actor or actress, and look what's going on now, unfortunately, in Los Angeles, and all of a sudden they probably may have to rethink the career path in the future. So whatever we think we do, whatever we plan that we will do, is not necessarily going to go accordingly. But what will always be is who we are. So I don't know if I answered your question.
Yes, you started. That was an introduction. So it's about how you coped with that situation and how did you get out of it? Maybe not how did you get out of it, in what did it develop?
Yes.
Yes, where did it bring you?
Excellent. Now, yes. So when this happened, again, I went back to the loop of the books and then I said, but now I added to my journey the mental health. Why? Because having been working with naval special warfare for 25 years, I saw a lot in terms of the mental and the emotional weight that these people carry. Imagine going to war. You don't know what will happen. You don't know if you will come back with 2 legs. You don't know if you will come back with, what will happen. You may miss, the birth of your kids. So I saw a lot of mental and emotional turmoil. So I decided to finish the PhD, but I said, I love symbols and I love mental health and I love the mind. And how can I put it all together? And so that is what I did. Since now I was unplugged from my identity of what I did, it lasted a few months, which is a long time. Then after that, when I felt so void, so empty, then I started filling it in again with knowledge, learning, again, the way I started my life, right? Filling it in with books, with reading, with knowledge. Now, this time was a different type of filling it in. This was purposeful. Now I knew what I wanted. And so that is what I devoted, and I am devoting the rest of my life, how to bring the awareness of mental health, healthy choices in our lives. Adversity will happen. We are here to go through adversity. If we are not having adversity, it means that we are too comfortable at home, not doing much more than just having a coffee. And even that is adversity, because at some point something will happen that will shock you. So adversity has to happen for us to expand. Well, what I want to do is bring up the conversation that there are different resources. Going to the doctor is one. Doing whatever the doctor says in terms of medication or treatment is the next. And also there are other resources like the spirituality or purpose-driven life. Some people are afraid to call it spirituality because it seems like it could be religion. Not necessarily. Just this is a spiritual moment. We are two beautiful minds exchanging beautiful ideas on how to help whoever is listening. This is a spiritual moment. So that is what I want to do. Bring more of these moments. And there are so many resources. And that is the thing. We have so many ways to fill in the void of trauma, or to fill in the void of solitude, or to fill in the void of mental or emotional turmoil. And that is what I am here for.
Yes, and it's so interesting because all your life you were, first of all, learning how to fill the void for yourself. Yes, then enriching this experience, making it broader, more conscious. And now you're already helping others to fill that void. And so there is this continuum that going through your life.
Yes, absolutely.
So can you provide maybe more details about your journey? What did you study? How did you start helping people, working with them? Maybe some examples of what you do?
Absolutely. So it all started when I was working with, again, in the Navy. I had in my office a big orange sofa. And many of the guys, pre-deployment or after deployment, they would just come in, close the door, and say, let's talk. Why? Because if they go and talk out loud about fears or anxieties or pain, it could harm their career path. They have to be always strong. So anyways, all this is to say, I became a very good listener. And that is where it all started. Listening. And then I was like, gosh, I wish I would be able to talk more, give more resources for these guys. So going back to study psychology and my focus is on cognition, instructions, anything that has to do with neuroplasticity and neuroscience, and anything that has to do with how the brain works. So that became my focus, because I knew that I could provide good resources that are founded in phenomenal studies, phenomenal work that others have done, and that I am hoping to contribute. So when I was doing my research, I started again with the symbols of, in this case, was the Catholic symbols, because again, I went to Catholic high school. So it was easy for me. And I recruited my participants, and it was beautiful because I just needed 10, 12 participants. Ended up being like almost over 40 wanted to participate. It was so much that the chair of my committee said, Cristina, you will never finish this. You have so many transcripts to go through. You cannot put it all. And I said, I will, because they all wanted to contribute. I feel like I could not cheat their souls. They wanted to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
So what I beautifully found was these people. So my research was how do people, in this case, devout Catholics, use religious symbols and religious teachings to help them cope during adversity? And what I found is all these different types of symbols were not just, like a cross or a rosary, but it was also the incense. It was also the sacred music. It was also the five senses.
Mhm.
It was also contemplation. It was also meditation. It was prayer. And the common denominator of all of them, no one was asking for God to change what they were going through. The only thing they were doing was to have a hand to guide them through the moment. So the beauty of this is they were not fighting. And again, when I'm saying adversity, a couple of my participants had suicide in their families. One of them had a son who committed suicide. The other one had a spouse. Other guy was going through war zone, and his plane was hit, and then he made it, obviously. But it was that. And so he was saying that he had this song, this beautiful sacred song that he had learned early on in his life with his mother. And that is what he was singing when he thought he was going to go. But none of them were saying, please get me out of this adversity. It was just to help them cope, to help them live through. The only way out is through. So these religious symbols help them go through their adversity. And now my next research, in fact, I just finished my first book with the chair of my dissertation. We co-authored a book. As a matter of fact, I have, it's not like it's in printing now, but I just finally got the first printing. I have to go through it and see how it's anything that we need to change. But this is, the first one is on Catholic symbols. But our next research will be on other religions. In fact, we're going to have 13 religions that we're going to investigate and research the same thing. So all of the main religions are going to have a voice in our research about the symbols of each religion, how they help people cope. The idea is that symbols, again, transcend language, transcend religions, transcend cultures. Symbols talk directly to that part of our brain that is not conscious, but it's there. And it's there, and it's the one that make us, guide us to do this or that. We don't know why we're reacting like this or why we're afraid of that. Well, it's somewhere hiding up there that our consciousness is not even aware of. So that is what the symbols help us to tap into that, belief system and be like, all is good, all is good. Even if it's not good, the circumstances, all is good. I will have the strength to go through this. So that is, yes, what I want to devote as well the rest of my time here.
Oh, that's beautiful. Can you show the book for our viewers so that they will be able to see as well?
So again, it's not the final version, but it's
The transformative power of symbolism and religious teachings through the lens of psychology. Beautiful, beautiful.
So, yes, I'm doing it with Dr. Frank Lee. And so, yes, and it's going to be, in fact, a 12 series book, because again, it will have all the religions, and it has something that it will be added in the next. So the number 2 is going to be this one, but through the lens of AI. So we're going to see how AI help us also go through our evolution of, in this case, of how the use of religious symbols. So yeah, it's going to be fascinating to incorporate all this.
Yes, it's amazing, and I think it's very unique. I don't think there was anything like that done before. What is available right now?
Yeah, and again, we want to make it very simple. This is a very short book. It's like my mom doesn't like to read much. Probably that's why I love to read much. We tend to do the opposite of our parents. And so my mom said, don't write anything too long. I will never read it, even though it's in English. So I'm like, well, Mom, first of all, I need to first translate it. She's like, well, even if you translate it, if it's too long, I won't read it. I'm like, well, thank you, my number one fan. But once I show her this, she's like, okay, translate it, I will read it. Because it's simple. It's in simple words and it's short. The idea is, come on, you don't need to make it so complicated. The resources are here for us and they are simple. The simpler we make it, the easier we can access it.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing this. And I will be also looking forward to the release of this book. So,
Yeah.
yes, thank you. Thank you for mentioning it. And what really interested me and made me think is your approach during the time of this financial insecurity, which happens a lot right now. So many people are losing their jobs in the field of neurotechnologies, where our podcast is coming from. So it's tough. It's very tough. And the question becomes, what do we do in these situations? Of course, people are trying to find a new job, some source of income. But you also, I don't know if you were looking for jobs at that time, but you actually also went to study. Yes, to acquire knowledge, to get to the next level of your development, knowledge, experience. I personally think that's a very valid approach because as I was born in Lithuania, I went through this collapse of Soviet Union when people were in very bad situations financially. And even my mom was saying, it's the best time to study. Just go to the university, go get your profession. So what do you think about that in general and based on your experience now that you already can see the results of it?
Huge question. A huge question because this, of all the conversation that I've been sharing so far, this is probably, I would say, the most applicable for what is soon going to happen. As you and I very well know, with the advent of AI, everything will be remapped. And at the college level, the classes that the students are taking now will become obsolete because now everything will be with robotics, with automation, with quantum computing. I mean, is everything changing like in 1 week? Is stored the information. Like I was reading about software engineers, 2025. I don't know how many of them are going to lose their jobs. So this is a huge question. What do we do when we lose the source of income? How do we cope with that? I would say that we don't necessarily just cope. We have to take action. It's easy to rest in our loneliness and feeling bad. And it's fine to do it for a while, meaning give yourself a finite time. But then at some point, you do have to dust off and get up and do something about it. Otherwise, you fall into a hole that will be darker and darker. And in the meantime, with the advent of AI, it's not like before. Like if you just took a year off and then come back, okay, yes, a few things here and there, and whoops, that's great. Now, a year ago, and now look at everything with ChatGPT, all the different type of AI. It's crazy. So I would say, yes, learn that nothing is for sure. Second, don't plan. Don't plan. Because if you plan, it may be unplugged as I planned and my husband planned. However, have the antenna up. And the antenna up now requires, whether you like it or not, education. The antenna up at this very moment. You don't have another choice. Now, education doesn't mean necessarily go to get an MBA. As a matter of fact, I would strongly suggest to not do it. For that, get wonderful books and read about it because MBA is going to be remapped as we know it. I mean, marketing is completely done now. I mean, yeah, that's another talk. So education. Learn if you are in your 20s, I would say before going to college, wait, because what you're going to learn now, 2 years from now, will be obsolete. So I would even say, go and learn a trade, because trades are going to be very necessary. And then immediately, like at the same time, learn about AI, learn about coding. Even though they say, well, what if the no coding? Doesn't matter. Just learn how to speak the language. Learn about machine learning. Learn about all that, whether you like it or not. Imagine the times of when the first car appeared, right? And everybody was like, no, I will go on with the horse. Well, you can go on with your horse, but it will take you a bit longer to go to work nowadays. So you will have to probably leave 3 days before if you have to commute half hour, right? So it's the same thing with AI. You may not like it, but if you want to have a healthy life, you have to learn to ride that wave. So, for example, I belong to the American Society for Artificial Intelligence, a phenomenal membership, and I'm learning a lot firsthand with these phenomenal leaders on the field. Is it my first choice? No, I love linguistics. I love symbols. I love books. That is my comfort zone. But I will not be able to help if I am not riding the AI wave, if I am not part of the discussion, if I'm not part of the research. In fact, there are subcommittees, and I joined the team for research and education because I have to ride that wave. If I want to be helpful, I have to ride the uncomfortable wave. So that is what I would say. Learn for kids, right? Learn the trade, and definitely, no matter what, incorporate AI in everything. Learn about it. And for older people that they have a career path, be ready, because your profession is going to be revamped, remapped. Some of them will probably disappear as we know it today. And it's going to bring a lot of mental and emotional turmoil. So I would say, go to these extra resources like, again, spirituality. Go do that before you are laid off. You see, it's like having the bank account, have the money before you need it. So deposit that before. Start creating today when you don't think you need it. Start creating today a good habit. Good habits, either which is classical music or painting or walking or, I don't know, or having a coach or having a counselor or talking with a friend. Something that takes you out of your zone of going to work, come back home, cook, watch TV. That is not going to work, because once your profession is touched, and there is no one profession that is not going to be touched. All professions are going to be touched in different capacities. But once that happens, it's not the time to try to look for how now I'm going to cope with this. We need to have resources before. So education is huge, and build your resources. Build your resources before your profession is touched, which will happen.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Very helpful. And your education approach, I think, is very important. Having a trade, something that you can use anytime, anywhere, which becomes more and more in demand. Even very, very simple, from the first glance, simple things. We have people who, let's say, install windows, do electricity. They are jacking prices. They become so much in demand. Their payment per hour grows significantly. Yes. So, just very simple jobs. But then add an AI and progress further and further already with that combination.
Yes. And one thing also, of course, I'm biased because I adore books. And one thing that I really invite the listeners is to really start learning the history of AI, the history of computers. Because once you start learning how it all started, it's not this monster anymore. It becomes like, it's like learning, the history of cars, only that cars are not that pervasive and, of course, destroy many industries, obviously, back then. But then it brought about a phenomenal next level of industries. The same with AI, only that with artificial intelligence and robotics and automation, it's going to be much more pervasive in our lives. But even then, learn the history, how it all started. And I strongly suggest like order some books, go to Amazon or Google, what are the 10 best books that I could read to learn about how it all started. And then you're starting to like the movie The Wizard of Oz, right? So I feel like AI is like this, the wizard, right? And it's this huge monster until Dodo goes and pulls the curtain and is this old gentleman doing this. So I think that life would be much easier when we demystify AI and go and learn how it all started. What is it? Don't leave the power in the hands of ours. Just learn. What is machine learning? What is deep learning? What is all the beautiful, what is AGI? I mean, don't allow others to be the ones leading the talk because your life is going to be impacted. So have knowledge on it. So be proactive. So that is what I would say. Instead of like turning the TV on and have it 3 hours, cut it to 1 hour and then do 2 hours of reading and read more about how it all started. Who is Turing? There are so many cool books to read. So that is what I would say.
Yes, I absolutely support that. Thank you so much. And as we're talking more now about careers, and that's the topic of our podcast, what was the most challenging part of your career, the biggest problem in your career path, and how did you overcome it?
The biggest problem, I had so many big, huge problems. I mean, I would have to pick because I worked in so many different things. I was a teacher at the university level, at high school level, at elementary level, and then teacher for the CEOs, then program manager, translator, interpreter, co-founder of a startup. That is another story. So problems, challenges are daily. It's not like you solve it and you're like, okay, now good. Now I can just rest. So I think is every morning, again, have your time of solitude with yourself, charge your battery with whatever you choose and get ready because a phone call will happen and something will take you off the route. So I will tell you one time something that happened that will be interesting. Again, many, many stories to tell, but I'll tell you one specifically. So I was a program manager. We are talking probably 2012. And there was a need to learn Pashto because the SEALs were going to go to Afghanistan and they needed Pashto and Dari. So as always, they never give you 6 months for you to find the right person. They tell you, we need it in 2 weeks. Because we can find them so easy, someone from that area that I can train in 2 weeks. But I did it. So with my wonderful team, because again, it's all about teamwork, I had a phenomenal team, which thank God I'm still very good friends with. And so we all sat there scratching the head. Okay. So we found this phenomenal, back then was refugee, then became foreign national from Afghanistan. But he was brand new. He had arrived to the US probably, 3 months. His English was chopped. But he got everything that we needed, which is the culture, which is I think he was a biologist back in his country. Anyways, so I trained him. I tell him, this is what we need. I gave him all the things. And off he goes to the class. The class was in another part of the building. So it was not in my building. It was in another building. Okay. So here comes the first day. And it was, again, 3 months for 6 hours each day. So it was quite intensive. The first week, I'm always asking, so how's it going? I talk with the guys. How's it going? Okay, his English, okay, but okay, we think we will follow. And then the second week comes. And then I get a phone call. And I'm in my office. I'm having a very good day because I'm thinking, okay, all is going as planned. I have the instructors, subject matter experts, all there, one teaching this, teaching that. So I was even enjoying the morning. And then I get a phone call. So I pick up the phone. I'm like, yes, foreign language program, Cristina Leira. And so he says, oh, all the words that I probably couldn't find in the dictionary fast enough, he was saying to me. I was like, oh, and I remember I was sitting, my assistant was there, and she's like, I'll leave you alone. I'm like, yeah, close the door. So she closes the door, and he was like saying, like, hey, you'll be here how many years? I'm like, well, like 15 years. You should be fired and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, is this happening to me? And so I'm like, do you want to talk with Cristina Leira, or you called the wrong number? She's like, no, of course I want to talk with you. So anyways, I come to find out that nobody had told me this. And again, since he was teaching in another building, I came to find out that the instructor understands that his English was not that good. So he decided, he didn't mention that to me, he decided to play movies about Afghanistan instead of teaching the language. And here are these guys are going to deploy, for war zone, hello. And they're like, we're watching a movie here? Now, again, I was asking the students, and, like, how is it going? And I had so many other classes that I couldn't go to observe. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to give him, I went to observe the first day because I was making sure everybody was introduced. And then I went the third day was fine. But then the 3rd, 4th, 5th, it seemed like everything was going as planned. No. Then he goes, and so long story short, I said, listen, we need to calm down. I was like, calm down. We're going to war. We cannot be watching movies in work hours. So you're absolutely right. So let me see how this is going to happen, how this is going to work out. But he kept shouting at me and shouting as if, and he literally is like, I'm going to fire you. I'm going to do whatever I had to do to fire you. So then he got me. and again, I was being very professional and all that. But he couldn't even let me talk. And this was, I said, okay, before anything, how many days has he done that? And he said, today he put a movie. I'm like, okay, did he do that last week? He's like, no. He's like, so he just did it today, one day. He's like, yeah, but we cannot afford. I get you, but it's just one day. So all of a sudden he kept shouting at me. And so I stand up. So I think I used a similar vocabulary to him. I said, listen, you and nobody I know is going to fire me because you are first going to let me talk and fix it. Or you think you never made mistakes. Anyways, long story short, he's like, oh, okay. All right. Gotcha. So I drive there. And so I open it and I was like, no more movies. And then then I talk with the instructor very nicely on his side. And then, we fixed it. But the morale of this, in fact, they ended up loving the instructor. When there were other iterations for level 2, they would say, is John available? I'm like, yeah. You want that John? Like, yes, that John. Uh-huh. So the long story short, my day was sometimes, even if you're professional, sometimes you have to even say, hey, wait, you crossed the line here. So that was a very difficult time. But sometimes I remember that myself, that it's okay to be like below level and calm. But if the situation rises to lack of respect, you have to just oppose similar, energy, so that at least you stop it. Because otherwise you become a victim, and then you become overpowered, and then you become abused, and then, you become all the rest that we all know. So that is one lesson. But again, you need to have your antenna up, because you need to know when enough is enough. If I had done it earlier, it would have been inappropriate. But I did it after he was shouting literally for half hour, and I had it. So that is a lesson, to have the antenna up when enough is enough in any circumstance. And I even said to myself, and if I have to be fired, I will be fired, but at least I will talk and do what I have to do. If then they don't want me, it's okay. But then learn to allow respect to your life.
Yes, that's a great lesson. And in general, it made me think about different character traits, different ways that you needed to develop yourself to communicate and deal with such strong personalities as you had. Yes, as you worked with the Navy SEALs. So, first of all, one thing, you probably acquired some of their traits because you were really fascinated with those people. But second, you also developed something to counteract, yes, to put in front of them when needed. So, what were those qualities? Can you compare yourself when you just started working there and when you were finishing after 25 years? What changed in you?
In fact, the answer will be surprising to you because I would say that the reason why I stayed there 25 years was because from day one, I did not allow anybody to disrespect me from day one. So I was very early 20s. I did not allow them to disrespect me. Even when the first time the guy said, "Oh, you're going to teach us with that book, your history." And I was silent. I'm like, I'm not going to be history my first week in a job. So no, but I didn't say that to him, but inside. And so I went for it. So what I say is I refined the way I answer. So probably back then I was much more like, unfiltered. But if I have to be fair with me, I was in the front line with them because I was their teacher for 6 hours for 3 months. And these guys love to break you down, especially if you are, like very young, you come, they want to have fun. No, they don't want to do evil. They just want to have fun. You're like, they want to toy you. Okay. And they did that with other instructors. I saw them slamming the door like, these are impossible. I could never work here. I want to be out of there. And they rush with their car out. I'm like, no, Sylvia, it ain't happening with me. So I would say that I stay with the same fire. You cannot be very like to work with them. It will not go very far. So you have to be fired. With fire, you have to be fired. But as time progressed, I refined my fire. My fire was more laser and less like burning all the time.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for all these insights. And you also mentioned today your experience in a startup. Did I understand? Can you tell more us about that as well?
Absolutely. So now speaking of challenges, so yes, I am absolutely honored to be part of this startup, and it started with a very dear friend of mine. We've been friends for 20 plus years, and then she was Navy, and then she left to form her own company. It went phenomenally well. She sold it, and then I stayed as a GS for the military. So our paths in a way like detour. I always loved her, but like when life becomes too busy. And then in 2023, she finally found me again, and she's like, "Listen, I'm starting this startup, and I would like you to be part of it." And I said, "Well, listen, interestingly enough, my program has been defunded. So of all times, I have my PhD, but of all times, I'm starting to see what I will do next, which I never thought I would say." And so she's like, "This is what you will do next. You will help." So I met the team, phenomenal team. So what it is we are developing an application that is for, let me start with what is not. It is not for dieting. It is not for eating and, looking slim, or this is nothing like that. It is about helping the autonomous user to make healthy choices for food. So the way it is the person, the user will input the type of food allergies, food limitations, food also likes and dislikes. And then the app creates the tailor-made, customized meal plan for the week, for the day, with cuisines, different cuisines. And so we have people like all types of, the members are amazing because we have behavioralists, we have neuroscientists, we have again, as people that work for the government doing all types of sanitation for the healthy choices in terms of, for example, in that case was water sanitation. So we have a phenomenal team. And what we want to do is provide something that is a robust, solid source of information. And so we are, as you can imagine, it's not easy to have the app up and running, developed and all that, lots of things. And we are doing everything from home. Like in fact, the president of the company is the one who's doing the phenomenal work of all the coding and machine learning with a group of developers as well. I'm behind the research and education. And we are going to tap into all the necessary components of the food. Why is it that you eat a tomato and it's good for you, but I eat it and it's just not good for me? So what is behind a tomato? Not all plant-based food is good for us. What about the other chemicals? What about, food coloring? So we are talking about the non-glamorous part of food. Let's put it like that. So it's going to be an app that is non-glamorous, but it's for autonomous users that want to make healthy choices about food, implementing it to their cuisines or their recipes.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. And you said that also a behavioral scientist and neuroscientist are working on your team as well. So where do you see neuroscience, neurotechnologies, behavioral sciences in our future with AI, integration of AI and other in products that we're using, in services that we will have?
So the first thing we need to do is to make sure that neuroscience is not bastardized, meaning like those who do not much about it and they want to just talk in Instagram about it, zip it, because they can do a lot of damage. So I think it's for people like you, me, and others that are really researchers in the serious way to talk more about it, to make our voices more, put the volume up so that those who want to learn about the mind have reliable sources of information. So to your question, where is it going? It's going to be huge. Why? Because as we both know, and the last person is for me to talk about neuroscience is me with all your phenomenal reservoir of knowledge and wisdom about neuroscience that you have. But obviously, the mind, how the mind works, is going to be huge coming up now with artificial intelligence. And again, it goes back to what we were talking earlier, automation, robotization. Where do I fit in? What happens when I want to write something and I am like, why bother to think when I can just ask ChatGPT to write it for me? Well, I'll tell you what happens. It happens mental decay. It happens earlier and earlier onsets of Alzheimer's and dementia because the muscle that we don't use, what happens? It becomes decayed. It becomes unusable. So neuroscience spoken by people like you and I is huge. We need to talk about this and make it big because the mental, and I don't want to sound negative, and so I won't. So, but there is a big worry that I have, which is the untapped discussion of mental health. And the more we go into 2025 with all the layoffs that are going to happen, the more we're going to see people that are like, now what do I do? So to your question, neuroscience in the right hands needs to be out there in simple terms. We need to talk in simple terms what it is that makes us be healthier, healthy choices, not with abstractions, not with videos that they look phenomenal. You're like, yes, and you're in your jammies looking like heck. And you're like, oh, yes, but I'm not like that. So you feel even worse when you look at the videos in Instagram and they look phenomenal. You're like, but you don't know what happens when the camera is off. You don't know what's going on with that person when the camera's off. or they look like they have all this money. You don't know what is happening in their bank account or in their kitchen. Do they have enough food for their children? But they look phenomenal. So that is what I think needs to happen. Neuroscience as a science of the neurons, a science of the mind, of the brain, will be more than ever necessary in simple terms, but from reliable sources. And that is huge. Reliable sources, so that it doesn't become the maniac discussion of neuroscience by no matter who.
I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. And one podcast I'm recording in addition to that is actually misconceptions about the brain, about the neuroscience, because like you said, there are many people who don't really know much about neuroscience, but speaking about it and multiplying myths about the brain rather than really talking about science, and many people believe all those myths. So I think it's so important to talk about that and to bust those myths. Yeah. So,
I love that you do that. I really, really respect your trajectory and what you're doing. What you are doing is necessary. It's essential. It's not necessary. It's essential. And you need to be even more out there. People need to hear more these conversations. Like, what happens when we lose a job? What happens with AI? What happens if my kid finishes college and things like marketing and he can never find a job? Or software engineers that all of a sudden they're unplugged, or even developers. Because even developers now are starting to see like, gulp, like everything is changing so fast. What will happen mentally and emotionally speaking? That is where these conversations are essential. Or else COVID is going to be nothing compared to the pandemic of mental challenges. We don't do something about it.
yes, and I really like that you raised that question of just doing the work with AI, making AI do all your things for you. And it's based on my personal experience, but maybe you also experienced something like that, or somebody you know. When AI just started, even it wasn't available to many people, you needed to wait in a queue for it, to work with ChatGPT. So I went right in, started working with it, and it felt so good. Oh, it can write, everything for you. And I wrote and this and that. And then I'm trying to write myself, and it's just not happening. That was scary. Yeah, so when we're giving that a function to somebody else instead of us training our brain to do it, we're losing it. It was bad. It was really bad and made me rethink everything.
It's like using a car and you never walk. At some point, your legs will not be strong enough if you're sitting all the time. And so it's the same with the mind and the mental and the cognitive functions. They will really go south if we don't use it. And one thing that I noticed is, like I'm big in LinkedIn. And many times I read stuff and I'm like, it looks like it was generated. And I feel that like my content, I write it. Because I feel like what is missing is like the human writing. Now, you can still use Grammarly to correct the grammar points. And I'm not saying not, help so that it's a very good product. But just be you the one who starts it. Don't go there and sit and say, well, I need to generate 10 posts on this. Please generate it for me. Be you behind that. Be you the one who, that holds the puppet. You
The puppeteer,
right?
yes.
You need to be the puppeteer. AI needs to be the puppet. But otherwise, it's going to be the other way around. We are going to be the puppets and AI will be the puppeteer. And if you read, which and you read and you learn a lot, you know a lot about AI, but with with the people that I'm working with, the things that now automation and robotics and AI is happening in all fields, it's really going to be the puppeteer if we let it. So it starts with the basic things. You have to be the one who generates the content. Have it like help you, hey, does it sound like too formal? I give you that, generate the content. And another thing that is huge is for children, for high school kids and for college students, Imagine they are writing their papers with AI. So at least you and I, we had developed our brain muscle throughout our decades. But these kids are starting from day zero that they start school out. Okay, why bother? I mean, I can just do this with AI. And even if the teacher thinks that they have software to find out if it was AI or not generated, there are software that can tell you if the teacher, like it can just bypass the radar.
Yeah.
So you are fooling. I think that in the end, humans are going to fool themselves when they take shortcuts.
Yeah. Shortcuts very often are dangerous. Yes. Yeah, that was such a good conversation. I think we touched upon very important points, and it reminded me of one saying. You like the quotes, and that saying was that if you are going and it becomes too easy to go, yes, on your path, probably you are going the wrong direction. Yes. So it's too easy. Something is not right there. Like you said, we need to have challenges. We're here to go through them, through those challenging parts. And that's important.
That's huge. That's huge what you said, because in fact, it's through resistance, right? And
Yeah.
our power grows. That's why
Yeah.
you do resistance in training, you do resistance. Anything that offers resistance is what makes your muscle develop. And
Yeah.
it's the same for the brain. So it's exactly what you were saying. Beautifully said.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Are there any resources that people can access to learn about you, about the work you do? Maybe you can mention your website if you have one, and the best way maybe to get in touch with you if people are interested in maybe communicating more about your topics, about your book that you
Yeah.
are doing, about your research.
The honest truth is that because I am doing so many things, I really don't have much time for social media. So I just pretty much only streamline it to LinkedIn. So if anybody wants to follow me, I need to do better to just be like doing more once a week at least. And but that is the best place to know about me and what I'm developing and on what I'm working on is all through LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. Okay. Well, our listeners will be looking forward and checking LinkedIn. We will add LinkedIn also into our podcast notes. And as we're nearing the end of our podcast, is there anything that maybe I didn't ask you, but you still want to share with our listeners? So that would be the best time to do it.
The only thing I will add to end this blessed encounter, I really am extremely, extremely grateful for your time, your kindness, and your invitation. I will just say that remember that time is an illusion, that we can start anytime. So even if you had had a job for 25 years and then you're unplugged, as I was, then I started. And every time that we wake up, when the sun goes up, means that we also have another chance to start. So just remember that, learn to forgive ourselves every single night. Every time you go that night, say, I forgive you, Cristina. It's okay. It's okay. You'll do better tomorrow. And then tomorrow, wake up and then say, okay, another day. And so that time is an illusion. So we always have time to start again every morning.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Christina. I wish you all the best. It was a great conversation, and our listeners, I'm sure, are joining me in bringing you best wishes in your work, and I will be looking forward to new developments. So, from you.
Thank you so much.
Dear Neurocareers podcast listeners, thank you for joining me and my incredible guests on this exciting journey into careers in neuroscience and neurotechnologies. I hope you've been inspired by the stories of those turning groundbreaking ideas into impactful realities. If you are looking for more guidance on advancing your neurocareer, book a free consultation with me, Dr. K, your podcast host and neurocareers coach at the Institute of Neuroapproaches, the only career service dedicated specifically to the needs of professionals in neurotech. Let's take the next step toward your neurocareer success together. In addition to free consultations, the Institute of Neuroapproaches offers a variety of services designed to help you thrive in neurotech. First, professional development planning. We help you create a tailored career development plan, identify knowledge gaps, and equip you with the tools needed to achieve your goals in neuroscience and neurotechnologies. Second, resume and cover letter review. Get expert feedback on how to craft documents that are specifically designed for job opportunities in the neurotech field. Third, interview preparation. Sharpen your interview skills through mock interviews and targeted feedback, including soft skills, hard skills in neurotech, BCIs, EG, MEG, live coding, and presentation preparation. 4. Networking and job search strategy. Learn how to effectively network and uncover job opportunities while standing out in the competitive neurotech job market. 5. Negotiation and salary advice. Receive expert guidance on negotiating salaries and benefits and determining a fair salary range for your desired position. All this and more can be found at www.neuroapproaches.org. Again, www.neuroapproaches.org. So, what are you waiting for? Let's navigate the path to success in the world of neurocareers together and turn the impossible into possible. We're looking forward to working with you.